Welcome into the Locked On Knicks podcast. Gavin, Schall, Alex Wolfe. A miserable game 4 ends in an 8-point loss, 109-101. We'll tell you all the excruciating details right now on Locked On Knicks. Aren't you excited to listen? Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Knicks. I wanted to remind you to download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And I want to thank you for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day, because that means you're an everydayer. And if you're listening today, you're really an everydayer, either that or a masochist. But you're a Knicks fan, so hopefully you're both. And we wanted to remind you to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and also on YouTube, hit that notifications bell so you never miss an episode. I'm Gavin Schall, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster. He is Alex Wolfe, editor-in-chief of the Strickland, the greatest Knicks website in the whole wide world. And Alex, I know you were miffed, I think is the word. You were miffed at the way this fourth quarter went. So I'm going to cede the floor to you. What grinded your gears about the horrible, terrible ending to this game?
Essentially just the lack of urgency. Like, I'm fighting every urge in my body right now to not just like go on a Stephen A. Smith tirade. Like, like just the like. I'm not a screamer, like I don't yell normally, but like every bit of me kind of wants to right now, but I'm going to keep myself under control to save everybody's eardrums. But like, I certainly did a lot of yelling in that fourth quarter because I just cannot believe the lack of sense of urgency that this team had down the stretch. Like, honestly, at this point, here's the hot take. I'll just unsheath it right now. Just lose on Wednesday at this point. If you're the Knicks, like, do all of us a favor and just lose, because this is like, they're not going to win this series. This isn't going to happen. I feel pretty confident in saying that. Tibbs is getting out-coached, but this team is also just getting outworked at this point. And they had their season on the line down the stretch of this game and more or less said, it's not worth it enough for me to go get a rebound or something. And the Heat had, what was there? I didn't even look at what I've been like wanting to avoid it so much that I didn't even want to look and see how many offensive rebounds.
I think it was six. Was it 7-0 in the fourth quarter?
7 boards in the fourth quarter, 7-1. The Knicks had a whole 1 offensive rebound in the fourth quarter, but 7 offensive rebounds for the Heat. Most of those coming in the last like 4 minutes or so, where the Heat just absolutely dominated the Knicks in that regard, which is ridiculous. You're looking at it, the Heat played like a team that's like ready to move on to the next round. The Knicks played like a team that are willing to let their season go away at this point, which fine. If that's their prerogative, then by all means. But this game was more annoying and painful to watch than the game on Saturday, which is really saying something, because on Saturday they got absolutely embarrassed. In this game, they at least gave us enough hope and finally like started making shots a little bit. Like you pointed out, going into the fourth quarter, they were shooting like 40% from 3. Of course, they managed to tank that too and get that down to 32% for the game by making almost no 3-pointers, by making generating some open looks for themselves. But this is just horrible. This game was terrible. Like I hate that the Knicks are like good again, because now I feel pain again. Like, this game was terrible. And I don't want to, it's just awful, man. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, it's kind of the feeling of like your nerve endings have been burned off for 20 years, and then you got a surgery to like repair them, only to be tortured with them. Like, take the nerve endings. I don't want them. It was really feels kind of like that. But you know what, for all of our Heat friends that will inevitably be in the comments and that have been commenting like, you're not respecting Miami enough, you're not giving Miami enough credit. So I'll give Miami their due right now. I would still posit, particularly without Tyler Hero and Victor Oladipo, the Knicks are the deeper team. Miami might have 2 of the 3 best players in Jimmy and Bam, but the Knicks should have like 3 of the next 4 of the next 5, like with everyone healthy. I don't think Brunson's totally healthy. I don't think Randle's totally healthy. I don't think Mitchell Robinson's totally healthy. Guess what? Jimmy Butler's probably not totally healthy. I'm sure Miami could tell you some of their guys aren't operating at full speed. All this is to say, Miami has been the team all series long that hasn't made mistakes, that has made big shots, that doesn't give up offensive rebounds that aren't completely and totally earned by the other team. They are deserving to be up 3-1. And that sucks to say. But this is like, if I can take, like, because I was obviously furious during the fourth quarter too. If I can try to give up all that anger and give my most balanced take on this, it's that this Knicks team is young, and young teams are supposed to make these mistakes in the playoffs, while Miami has won more series than anyone in the last couple of years. Or excuse me, second to Golden State, I think, like over the last 2-3 years. I got to triple check that. But the point is, they have tons of experience, and because of that, they do not make these mistakes. That being said, there's still specific stuff that I could look back on and get absolutely enraged about, like Julius Randle, like 8 minutes in this game, turning the ball over at midcourt and just sort of shrugging his shoulders, acting like it was everyone's fault but his own. And Brunson goes charging back, forces a miss, and Bam is there to get a dunk, while Julius isn't even inside the three-point line because he was busy doing something that I'm not allowed to say on this podcast. So there's plenty of stuff like that. Tom Thibodeau was still insistent on doubling Jimmy Butler, and so the Knicks were just flying around in rotation all night, soaring past shooters. It was stupid. It was frustrating, Alex. There are a lot more issues. We're going to get into all of them, but those are kind of the first two in my mind outside of the offensive rebounding, which was obviously just gut punch after gut punch to watch down the stretch of this game.
Yeah, you really read my mind there, because your comment about, like, well, ultimately this is a young team, that does ring true, except for the two guys that arguably effed it up the most, which is Julius Randle and Tom Thibodeau. I mean, Tibbs has just had his soul taken by Spoelstra in this series. I mean, Spoelstra's coach circles around him. And I thought that, honestly, the Knicks, like, the really sad part is that schematically, like, if they had just maybe done one or two things slightly different on Tibbs's end, as far as what Tibbs was calling out, they might have won this game, because, to your point, doubling Jimmy Butler was asinine down the stretch of this game. It was not working. Like, all it's doing, and I don't know how you're 4 games into this series and you don't understand yet. Like, okay, yes, like, I mean, I mentioned this when I was talking with the Heat guys the other day. Like, we've talked about it. Like, yes, this Heat team during the regular season sucked at shooting threes. They were the 27th ranked team in the NBA shooting threes.
And the 29th ranked offense, just period. With
yeah.
Tyler Hero, who was their most efficient scorer along with Jimmy Butler all year, who's not there right now. Sorry.
Exactly. And yet these guys just, I mean, at a certain point, you just have to accept facts. They're not missing threes right now. None of them are missing threes. Like, they are all hitting like they're like prime freaking Ray Allen or something. Like, there's no like ignoring these guys anymore. And so, like, if you're going to continue to do the same stupid crap that you did all series long and then double down on it in a game where you actually went to a strategy of single covering him with Grimes, and Grimes, to his credit, go figure, something that we talked about like literally yesterday. You put Grimes in and you say, you know what, let's see how he does one-on-one on Butler. He did great. And he didn't even get in foul trouble, like, it's not even like you had to be like, oh, we have to double just to like relieve a little bit of pressure off of Grimes here so that he doesn't foul out or something. There was no excuse for it. And yet they kept going back to it. And down the stretch of this game, they're like, oh, well, let's go back and double Jimmy again. That seems like a great idea. And then what happens? But they get killed by open shooters, and that like rotates the floor in such a way that then they were out of position for rebounds and stuff. Like, it's so stupid. Like, it drives me insane. And honestly, sorry, one last thing and another hot take. At this point, I just hope the Knicks get their asses absolutely handed to them on Wednesday, so then we can have at least this much of a shred of hope that Tibbs gets canned, because it's obvious this team is too talented for Tibbs at this point, and they need a coach that can actually like scheme now at this point. Like, they've gotten the talent, they've developed the talent. But this is all the stuff that we talk about with Tibbs, where it's like he can face a Bickerstaff in the first round and maybe beat him, because he hasn't exactly proven himself as a playoff coach either. But if this team ever wants to reach a different level, you need to get a different level of coach. And Tibbs just isn't it. He doesn't adjust. He comes into a game with a set game plan and he doesn't deviate from it. And that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, I have some more thoughts. But first, Alex, I think we should tell everyone if they want to go to that game 5 that you're not super optimistic about. Maybe some people watching are a little bit more optimistic about. there's one place that they can go to find tickets, and that is our friends over at Gametime. Because buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. The events themselves should be stressful, but not the process of buying the tickets. Gametime is fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guaranteed. You can stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you'll have while you're there. Gametime is the place for last-minute tickets. You don't have to plan months in advance because they have deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. You can get exclusive flash deals on any sport, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section in row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, we are back on Locked On Knicks. Alex, I just had to double down on everything you just said. Because it's not only that Miami's hitting threes, it's that their ball movement has been impeccable. Like, you want to play the way that they played when you have a star like Julius Randle 2 years ago against the Hawks, who's not willing to move the ball when he's double teamed or can't see the pass. Not an issue for Butler. He's not an exceptional passer, but he's a super functional one and super unselfish and willing to move the ball along. And then you have a team full of guys who make the extra pass, who like I said it on our last pod, they're looking an awful lot like the 2013 or 2014 Spurs. And it's not because this team is full of basketball geniuses, but it is full of guys who can read the court, who can make the extra pass with a coach who knows exactly how to position them and knows exactly how to coach them up on where the ball should be going in next, playing on a string. And honestly, the Knicks, like, given to like the perfect word you use, the asinine strategy from Tibbs, they mostly did a good job executing it. They played on a string, but here's the issue. When you have Quentin Grimes in the fourth quarter of a game that you got to win, inexplicably doubling Jimmy Butler, not in the corner, like where he can't see anyone, but at the top of the key where he can just move the ball wherever, and he can just swing it right over to Kyle Lowry, and Kyle Lowry can do one pump fake. Grimes can go flying out of his shoes, and you have a guy who has hit big shots in the NBA Finals of all places, shooting a wide open three. You're just not going to win this game. And I also thought it was a great point by you, because I made this point in the inverse for the Knicks on offense when we were talking about adjustments heading into game 4. I said, look, having Quentin Grimes on the floor, that's going to give you an opportunity for offensive rebounds because all of Miami won't be packed in the paint. But when you're flying by guys and just sprinting around the floor and having to do these manic, deranged closeouts, you're not going to be in position for rebounds. And Miami took advantage of that again and again and again. We can go over it. I don't really want to belabor the point. Like, I wrote down notes on like every single offensive rebound. Like, a lot of them were self-inflicted errors. Like, there was a play where RJ and Grimes like wasn't sure who was going to get it and fumbled the ball. There was a play where RJ stepped out of bounds. There was another one involving RJ where he had his hands on it and got tipped out. There were multiple ones where Randle or Mitch just didn't get a body on anyone. Mitch one time completely failed to box out Bam. And then the last offensive rebound of the game, he let Cody Martin, of all people, just squirt right around him. Like, there was a distinct lack of physicality, but also the way they were playing defense didn't help. And this, let me just say, this sucks to say because I thought Tom Thibodeau, by and large, did a great job against Cleveland. And I think the complaints we're having are complaints that 20 other Locked On podcasts, maybe 23 other Locked On podcasts are having. Like, I'm sure Sixers fans are saying the same stuff about Doc Rivers. I'm sure Celtics fans are saying the same stuff about Joe Mazzulla. Part of it is that Eric Spoelstra is just that good. But Alex, also part of it is that Tibbs, like, he just doesn't seem to learn from his mistakes very quickly.
Yeah. And, you know, it's another thing too to say, you know, we've said this for years, right? And the Knicks are finally following through on it. And we kind of saw the fruits of it this year. Like, continuity matters, right? And 2 years ago, we kind of talked about, like, you know, when the Knicks were in the playoffs in 2020-21, and, you know, they obviously surprised everybody and, you know, got to that point to begin with and blah, blah, blah. It was like, you know, okay, yeah, they don't have the most complex defense. They don't have a ton of different looks, but look, this is what Tibbs does. He comes in, he sets a culture, he gets these guys on the same page, whatever. And yet we're now 2 years beyond that, and we're still basically talking about the same issues on defense, because his idea of an innovative defense is let's double Jimmy Butler all day. Like, that's it. Like, that's as far as it goes for him. Like, he has his ideal of what defense should be, and nothing is going to sway that. And so, like, you never see the Knicks say, despite having personnel to do it, if they so chose to, you never see the Knicks doing what, say, like some of the best teams in the league would do, like say the Golden State Warriors or something, which obviously they have one of the most uniquely great collections of talent, but they've been able to plug guys in and out over the years and, create this system where they can say, you know what, let's play a more traditional form of defense. But sometimes let's put out a lineup out there that can switch everything. We'll try to throw a wrench in what the other team is doing. And sometimes maybe we'll play zone, like what the Heat do. Like good teams have multiple looks to give you, especially on defense. That's kind of the most important place to throw lots of looks, because no matter what, on offense, you're going to throw multiple looks because you're going to be running different plays and, trying to generate different stuff. So that goes without saying. But you can't play defense exactly the same all the time and expect it to work, because that's how you run into things like what the Knicks have run into now, which, as you said, they're facing a bunch of guys that are just dudes. I mean, like, they're good role players, but like, it's Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and like solid role players. Let's put it that way. And these guys are picking them apart like they're like you said, like they're the Spurs or like the Warriors or something. It's like they know exactly where to place the ball because they've got Tibbs totally figured out at this point on the defensive end, and that's that. And they've even got the Knicks figured out in the sense of like, well, if we get them scrambling and, we could shoot a certain way, we can get an offensive rebound too, and we'll start beating them at their own game that way and take away their whole advantage. It's just very frustrating. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we should move to Julius Randle at this point because,
Again, I got to say it one more time. 29th offense in the league, lost arguably their best scorer this season. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. Like we were saying this pre-pod, we said it last pod. I'll say it one final time. Jimmy Butler could score 35. Bam could score 22. You hold everyone else in check and you dare someone else to say like, hey, actually beat one of our guys in a static standstill matchup. Go beat Quentin Grimes on a switch. Go beat Emmanuel quickly when he's healthy on a switch. Even Julius Randle, like when he's engaged in a one-on-one matchup, like these guys aren't really getting anywhere. Again, when Julius is like actually gives a crap, and I don't think Miami would have scored enough. Like maybe they still win this series, but I just can't help but think we would have had closer games in the 3 games that Jimmy Butler is healthy. But speaking of Randle, I already noted the play he had at half court, but the process from him, like early in this game, was just, again, for the second straight game, horrific. Like he had a play like 2 minutes in where he took an isolation step back 3 on Bam Adebayo 2 seconds into the shot clock. At the end of the half, he had a play where he airballed a 3 because he was trying to go 2 for 1. The only issue was there was only 20 seconds left on the half, and the Knicks could have taken it down to like 5 or 6 seconds, but instead he does that. Had another play where he committed a charge when he could have just slipped it to Josh Hart for an easy layup. And like in the first half, again, he was just so laser focused on the rim. To his credit, he made some really tough shots. In the second half, I thought he did a better job passing the ball off. He like a really nice one to RJ that RJ ultimately ended up missing on. Like he showed off like a lot more juice. But that was almost, I don't know how you feel about this, Alex. Like it was almost frustrating to me when I saw Julius like moving well on defense at points in the second half and looking explosive on offense. I'm like, all right, I guess you're not that hurt. Maybe you could run in what is functionally an elimination game for this team that you're supposed to be the co-leader of. And that just sucks because I thought we were past this point with this guy who seemed to have figured things out, who seemed to have had his head on straight. He's been meditating. He's been breathing. It's not working. It's not working right now because he didn't give a crap early in this game. The body language was utterly demoralizing for me. I can't imagine what it was like for his teammates. And for a guy who did some really good stuff on offense in this game and helped keep the Knicks afloat, it wasn't all on him. We noted it with Tibbs. There were a ton of issues, ton of mistakes from other guys on the court, but just not what you want to see from, again, the supposed co-leader of this team.
And this is the guy that, might very well, and what are they announcing it this week? Might by the end of this week be on an all NBA team. You know what I mean? Like this guy's your guy that's supposed to be top 15 in the NBA this year, apparently. You know what I mean? And like, that's not to completely throw away all the good that he did this year. But yeah, there is a disturbing trend with Randle where he just kind of falls apart in high pressure situations like this. And, it's annoying because we saw the best of what he has to offer, literally even against the Heat this year at times, like being the leader, stepping up, playing the way that everybody should want to be playing. And in this game wasn't doing it. And was even like just making absolutely bamboozling decisions. Like, you want to talk about using your energy wrong? Like spending his energy when he's in foul trouble, just barreling into the lane instead of taking like, I mean, I know that he didn't have the best game from three, he only shot 1 of 4, and clearly everybody still looked pretty shook from range in this game, other than like maybe Grimes and maybe RJ. But like he was, making reads a half second too late and then putting every ounce of energy that he had into just driving full steam into the lane with no backup plan and running guys over and getting offensive fouls called on him. That's how he literally left the game, was on an obvious like I don't I'm sorry, anybody could have seen that. What was it? Struess stepped in front of him for the last one.
Mhm.
Anyone could have seen that Struess was going to step into his way there. Like how dense can you be to not see that coming and then still just go full speed? When I know full well Julius has the physical capabilities of either picking his dribble up and just taking a midi there, or just circling it back out. Try again, whatever. Like don't do
Good move, maybe.
just don't do that.
Yeah.
Just don't do that. Don't drive directly into the guy waiting for you. It was so frustrating, man. Randle, I hate to turn him into like the voodoo doll, the effigy here, like that we're just kind of like throwing out there, but he sort of was in this game. Like he was the pure embodiment of what went wrong for the Knicks in this game. Because other guys, he had his redeeming qualities as well. Like you said, he did make some shots when he needed it. He did have some offensive rebounds when they needed them and stuff like that. Or he had at least one big offensive rebound I can think of, but was probably their best defensive rebounder for the day, all things considered too, which the numbers bore out. But it's just, it's like you're supposed to be the guy that's showing the urgency along with Brunson. And Brunson did, and Randle didn't.
Yep.
And that's that. Brunson played his heart out. He you know what? Let's take a break. We'll talk about Brunson when we come back, because I thought that Brunson had a great game. He deserves to at least get recognized for that. So we'll take a quick break and just remind everybody real quick about maybe an opportunity to make some money off of betting all the unders on the Knicks in this next game. And that's with our buddies at PrizePicks. And they're currently running a $1 million daily Superflex promotion through the NBA playoffs and finals. Every day of the NBA playoffs and finals, one PrizePicks user will win a chance at becoming a millionaire. And one entry placed after 8 a.m. Eastern will be randomly selected each day. Whoever placed that entry will be given a 6-pick flex with the following payouts. 6 correct picks gets you $1 million. 5 correct picks gets you $80,000. 4 correct picks gets you $16,000. And full details can be found at prizepicks.com/million. You must opt in at that link to be eligible for the $1 million entry. And once you opt in, all you have to do is play the game like normal, and you could be the lucky winner. And how does one go about playing PrizePicks like normal? Well, it's pretty easy. Like I said, all you do, instead of having to build a roster of guys with like a $10 million budget or however those other games work, all you have to do is just say, I think this guy is going to get over or under what PrizePicks says that the line is for that guy. So if it's like Julius Randle over under 20.5 points for next game, and you want to be like, this guy's been averaging 15 points on 30% shooting, easy money, I'm going to pick the under. You could do that, as well as maybe how many times Tibbs will double Jimmy Butler. That's not actually going to happen, but points, rebounds, assists, whatever you want to do, you could pick guys and pick whether you think they're going to go over or under, and that's how you create a PrizePicks entry. It really is that easy. And even if you're not in the $1 million contest, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter promo code Locked On to sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. All right, Gavin, we're back in to continue talking about this game. And you know what? We got to steer in a positive direction at some point, or else we might just collapse here, have a massive brain bleed or something just from talking about Julius Randle and Tibbs for so long. Jalen Brunson, I thought he had a really fantastic game. I'll throw it to you first to kind of hand him his flowers here.
Yeah, 32 and 11 in 44 minutes, to your point. Like, he was the guy. Every time Miami got a steal, when Brunson hit a three, and inexplicably the rest of the Knicks decided to let Jimmy Butler streak down the court for a Hail Mary, Brunson was there, valiantly trying to do something about it. There was one play where he had like incredible verticality on Bam Adebayo, and it got called a foul, probably rightfully, but like he got a piece of the basketball. Like that shouldn't be possible. Like heart of a champion, heart of a line, has that dog in him on the X-ray, whatever, however you want to phrase it. Like he was great. The shot making was there, 10 for 21, like fought his way to the free throw line, 10 for 11 from the free throw line. The threes still weren't really falling, just 2 for 7. But what I thought what was most important, Alex, was like the work he did as a playmaker, like setting up RJ for multiple like easy threes. Like at one point in the fourth, like had deep penetration to slip it to Josh Hart for a layup. Just the balance that he had, and then like some of the like, I mean, like the Knicks, like we said it coming in, like they needed a star performance from one, if not both of those two guys, and like there were just moments of like genuine star quality from Brunson. Like had that crazy corner banked in three that didn't defied physics, had the Euro step into the up and under on Love that got like Iron Eagle into hysterics, which takes a lot since he's the Brooklyn Nets announcer. I thought he was just fantastic today. And I want to maybe some people based on our comments, everyone will groan at this, but I thought having Quentin Grimes back out there just to force the Heat to stay attached to someone in the corner made a massive difference in creating space for him to operate.
Yeah, it was it was a heck of a game for Brunson. I mean, I feel the same way as you. You know, and look, I don't think he played perfect on defense either. And I think that of anybody, I think that you could most reasonably make the argument that his was probably purely based off of his injury. Like he had a hard time staying in front of some guys in this game, which is a problem you're going to run into with Brunson no matter what. But he played the passing lanes at various times, which is one of his best qualities on defense. And to your point, more, mostly just gave a crap and got down the floor, was always the one that was trying to contest somebody, was always the one trying to be in the middle of plays and bust up transition and whatever, even when the rest of the team seemed uninterested. I mentioned that most of the team didn't play with much of a sense of urgency, but he did. And so he deserves a ton of credit for that. He also deserves a ton of credit for the fact that he more or less was playing like almost like 1-on-3 a lot of times. Like the Heat had no reservations about doubling him and even shading another guy over towards him just to try to get the ball out of his hands, because they understood like this guy's the guy that's going to beat us today if someone's going to. And what his teammates did with those opportunities that were generated out of that, they did hit some shots that, like RJ, to your point, had a pretty solid offensive game. He made some real bonehead plays otherwise, but he's the guy that you can kind of write things off and be like, I mean, we'll probably catch some crap in like YouTube comments or something for this, but like you can write it off because like he's 22 years old. Like he's not quite off his rookie deal yet. And yes, he should be over some of those boneheaded plays, but also he's 22 years old. Like he's younger than the Knicks second year guy in Quentin Grimes. Like or almost younger at this, or no, he is younger. I think by like a month.
Grimes turned 23 tonight.
Yeah. And RJ doesn't turn 23 for another month. So like, yeah, he's younger than him. I mean, it's just like, anyway, back to Brunson. I thought he played a fantastic game. I don't know how much more to how better to express that than just the fact that he did everything that you could have possibly wanted from him, except for maybe making a couple threes down the stretch in the fourth. But I mean, he also endured an extremely dirty and kind of horrible play from Caleb Martin that luckily did get called a flagrant, where he basically shoved his foot under Brunson's landing area to, like, I think intentionally try to sprain his ankle. Maybe that'll get looked at further, but it looked pretty intentional when you looked at it on the replay, and you could see that he like even traced where his foot was going to make sure it would land directly under Brunson's, and then tried to look up towards the hoop as if he wasn't paying attention to that then, and kind of left his foot there. Brunson managed to, get over that and finish out the game. It was good for Brunson. The Heat have worked really hard in this series, but they also have some less than savory tendencies on both sides of the ball that I don't particularly love. I don't know, Gavin, where should we go from here?
Let's talk about RJ Barrett. You mentioned him, but he was excellent on offense in this game. 9 for 16, 3 for 5 from 3, made all 3 of his free throws, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. I thought this was like just a big game for him coming in, right? He's had the 5 games in a row. Last game really struggled. I thought made some bad decisions last game, like kind of got taken out of it early on. I was like, all right, is that that going to be the rule going forward? Like now that Jimmy Butler's on him, like is he out for the series? Like is this it for RJ as a productive guy? Like is he still going to be able to make good decisions? Is he still going to be able to contribute? The answer was yes, yes, and yes to all of those. Like I just thought the process from him was so good. Like even the first shot that he missed, like he attacked Kevin Love on a switch, got right to the rim, didn't hit the layup, but then like was making his open threes, and continually like took advantage. Like I'm not even sure. Like, this is another credit to Jalen Brunson. Like I'm not even sure how many of these were called assists, but he got a bunch of layups, Alex, where Jimmy, you could tell, was like leaning a step or two towards Brunson. His weight was on that inside foot. Brunson would swing it to RJ. And unlike Julius Randle, there was zero hesitation. Like RJ kind of learned from his mistake last game. He would just blow right by Jimmy Butler, get to the rim. And man, that was a sight for sore eyes. Like when at times this year, like we've questioned what kind of physical shape RJ's in, like just how athletic he is, just how good that first step is. Like that is one of the best defenders in the NBA, even if he's leaning off balance. Like Jimmy leans off balance because he's confident that he can recover in those situations. But RJ was able to just beat him to the rim. And then like just the discipline that he showed. Like he had that one in transition on Kevin Love where like both the announcers were marking like, all right, that was great from RJ because like Love was there trying to take the charge. And RJ, like earlier in the season, he would have ran right into Love and probably thrown the ball out of bounds for good measure. But instead, it was a jump stop, 2 feet down, bankering over him, had that great fast break late where he lobbed it to Mitch. Like again, just perfect discipline, perfect timing, didn't force the shot. It was like, this sounds weird to say, but like him and Randall are obviously, like anyone who listens to this podcast, the guys who have like probably made it most likely will need like blood pressure medication at some points in our life. And weirdly enough, RJ, the guy who's 5 years younger, has been the guy who's played like the vet in this series and last series.
Yeah, I'm with you there. You know, of note too on that one Butler blow by in particular was the fact that he did that with his right hand. And that's pretty impressive for a guy that's a pretty dominant lefty, to blow by with his right hand like that and manage to get all the way to the rim. Also, to your point, I was going to bring up the same thing, like, and it goes back to what I said about Randall just going bull in a china shop and just running guys over. Like RJ clearly has developed this ability to go, okay, I can stop and just toss up like a floater, you know, or something. Like anything other than just barreling into somebody and giving them the ball back is a good move. And RJ's learned how to do that, and it really shown it off in this series. And then you know, it's like if he could start scoring like this and playing this well, obviously you want him to be better on defense and lose some of the, you know, as I said earlier, like some of the kind of little bonehead things that happen throughout the game. But you got to feel good about it, how he's progressing in this postseason. I mean, this is leaps and bounds from, you want to talk about stuff from 2 years ago. Like Randall struggled 2 years ago. Randall's struggling now. RJ 2 years ago was rendered basically useless in the playoffs and was completely invisible.
Is generous there. I'll say that.
Yeah, it was useless in the playoffs 2 years ago, and now this year has been, I dare say, the Knicks' second most reliable offensive option.
I would just say second best player. Like I don't think there's maybe Hart for what he did against Cleveland, but I think RJ on the measure of things, you can make a pretty good case for it.
Yeah, I think so too. So, you know, ups to RJ too. You know, the mistakes are still there, but if he can work on tightening those up, then great. But even if he doesn't tighten those up, like if he's eventually the third best player on the Knicks at some point, you know, if they get someone else that, you know, is better than him, or if he's the third best player on some other team, if he gets traded for some guy that the Knicks end up getting, whatever the case may be, like I think he's got a really good NBA career ahead of him, no matter where he ends up. Hopefully, if he reaches full potential, though, it's on the Knicks. So I'm hoping for that. And this playoffs has seemed like a step in the right direction, even if it wasn't always perfect. But these playoffs clearly have not been perfect for anybody on the Knicks. So that's a pretty, other than maybe Brunson, like Brunson is maybe the only.
Even he's had his. I mean, who knows like how much the injury plays into it. But
everybody's had their issues these playoffs. So, Gavin, I think final question for us to close out on: how many games do you think this is going?
I don't want to answer you. It's 5. I think.
Yeah.
I think the Knicks will put it up like a similar. I think it'll be a similar game. I think they'll put up a good fight. Like you'll get better effort. I can't help but think you're gonna get, man, I hope a better game from Julius Randle. I think Quentin Grimes has a really good game. I thought he was very nervous to start this game. Made some bad mistakes, and then once he settled in, I thought he was essential on both ends of the floor. I think he has a really good game. I think Josh Hart is a much better game. I think it's a situation where like Jimmy Butler hits like a shot late. Like I don't think the Knicks get embarrassed in Game 5. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I mean, depending on your definition, like if you look at the score, it might not necessarily look like they got embarrassed in this game, and yet I still feel like they did.
Yeah, agreed.
So I mean, I don't know. I think I think it'll be frustratingly close. It'll be another one of those where the Heat just keep them at arm's length until a late dagger, and then it's over. I think if they couldn't come out and show the proper urgency and proper like ability to just make small adjustments and whatever in this game, it's not going to happen magically in the next game, regardless if they're on their home floor or not. And that's just the facts at this point, I think. So yeah, I think this series is pretty well over, unless the Heat just instantly in one fell swoop regress to the mean as a whole team. But the Knicks seem to be the only team that does that, where they just suddenly stop shooting.
If Julius Randle like just has a game where he hits 5 threes, because like he is like, I'll say one thing, like he's overdue. Like he had the game in the regular season where he made, what was it, like 8 or 9 against the Heat. Like he's due for a game like that. So you get something like that could flip it for a game. I don't, like you. I don't see any way the Knicks win 3 in a row.
Yeah, I don't either. Especially because they even managed to tame some of the guys on the Heat that were doing really well earlier in the season. Like Gabe Vincent was basically invisible in this game. Like, you know, some of these guys that were doing big things for them earlier in the series, like were not factors in this game. And yet the Heat just keep finding guys that could just, oh, Gabe Vincent's not hitting them today. Well, Kyle Lowry will just hit like 5 threes on your face and make a bunch of back-breaking plays today. And so will Caleb Martin, who was basically invisible in the last game. You know, it's like, just they're like the epitome. They're the most frustrating epitome of next man up I've ever seen. At any rate, yeah, I think I'm with you. Get 5 games. I think they're done. Almost for our sake. I hope that's the case at this point. This game was so frustrating to watch, and I don't want to experience too many more of those. And I just truly don't trust this team to come back and win 3 straight games at this point. So I'd love to be proven wrong, though. You know, it's the eternal.
I was thinking, like what I was just saying, like I want to see it in like a montage that some hater makes, like after the Knicks win the championship, like doubted by the media. Like, winning.
I would love to make that montage.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Anyway, we should probably cut it off before we give any more memeable material here. So thanks for listening. If you tuned in after that horrific loss, we'll be here for you guys after the next potential horrific loss, or maybe win at home. Who knows? But until next time, thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you guys all soon. Peace out.